Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our PRISM meeting this evening on taking control of your life, which is a very dramatic title. And we hope, though, Heather will give you some magical powers. I have actually got a sticker on me, which my daughter gave me earlier, and I thought it's quite appropriate for tonight. And it's a unicorn and says, "I am so magical." So I thought I'll keep that on, and so we can all use our unicorn powers. So to introduce Heather, Heather and I actually worked together 10 or so years ago at AHDB. She's a Cumbria girl, born and bred, brought up on a family farm with both sheep and beef in the Lake District, and now she's been living in Scotland for the last 25 years. Heather is a very highly motivated and passionate talker, and I'm sure she'll share with you her thoughts and knowledge this evening to give you ideas and confidence to sort of go back to your business and take a look at things in a slightly different manner. So I think without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Heather, and you can give our PRISM farmers your sort of wisdom to get them to their destiny.
Katie, thank you. And thank you all very much for giving up your, God, I don't even know what day of the week it is. Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, I've just had 3 weeks off, so I can't complain too much about the work-life balance. But absolutely delighted to be joining you all here this evening. And as Katie said, I am from a farming background, no qualifications, so maybe some of you will be switching off now. Self-taught, born and bred, and worked really in agriculture and the industry all of my career, from working in the bank to working for First Milk as an area manager, and then working, as Katie said, with Dairyco AHDB, and I was predominantly in the dairy sector. And I absolutely love farming. I love the countryside, and I love our rural communities and everything that we've got. And when Katie asked me to come and speak to you tonight, I'm very conscious that we're kind of in a bit of a real changing times, and I'm very privileged. I get to travel and work with clients and people and businesses all over the UK in many different sectors. As I said, predominantly I was initially really just dairy, but now I work in all sectors all over, and in many industries as well. And I'm always curious, where are you, and how are you? How do you feel about the future of your farm, your business, and you know, your work-life balance and everything as well? Because I find when I look at the press and listen to the news, put the TV on and everything, it is so negative. It is so woe and down, and there's always some doom happening. We can actually get dragged into that and really brought down. And if we don't take time to step back and to stop and look at our own lives, we can all become, you know, doomed, that we're thinking, you know, the sky is falling in. But many businesses that I speak to are actually doing okay. Having, you know, I know with Brexit and everything, it was going to be the end of the suckler herd. It was going to be the end of and the hill ewe, and the people and the clients that I work with, they've actually been doing really well. And so that's why I want to sort of ask, how are you, and where is your confidence? How do you feel about the future? Are you buzzed up? Are you excited? Are you just seeing all these changes that's happening with government, with policy, and with the environments and everything as something that is a real great opportunity? And you're thinking, right, look, this is just the chance we've been waiting for. Let us drive it. Let us go for it. Bouncing out of bed every day. You just cannot wait. Or are you potentially in the seat that's just getting a little tired? Just starting to think, what on earth is going on? Here we go again, changing the rules. What are we meant to be doing? No real clear direction. Single farm payments are getting reduced. You know, the public perception, the go vegan, and then, you know, the government at the moment, you know, where is food and farming on the agenda? And maybe just feeling a little demotivated and a little tired. And I think, you know, when we look at farming, we do really have to think about what is our reputation, because often, even when we're really happy and really buzzed up, we can be we do have a little bit of a reputation of being a bit moany, and everyone's sort of complaining about, oh, nobody works as hard as a farmer, and oh, we all need a farmer to feed the world and everything, and oh, woes, oh, woes. And, we work so hard that we get up before we've gone to bed. We're working 28 hours a day, 8 days a week. And, and then you wonder why, when it comes to succession or recruiting staff, that people maybe don't want to come and work with us or for us. And I think, we have to really, really look at this reputation we have in farming, because, this culture of working so, so hard, is it sustainable? Is it attractive? And working hard, are we actually being efficient and productive? And I am seeing now, the stress is the number one killer out there. And, we have to really start looking about how we farm. This working 24/7, we need to change. The next generation, they're not wanting to work long, long hours. They don't mind putting the yard in, but actually we've got people now that want 2 or 3 jobs. They want to work 3 or 4 hours a day. They don't want to just be doing all this. And folks say, oh, Heather, that's all well and done, but the sheep have still got to be lambed, the cows have still got to be checked and everything. But is there a better way of doing it? And that's what I think we really need to look at, and start putting our heads up and talking about the great opportunity, the great benefits, and the different ways we can all work. And we were just laughing there, Katie, you were talking about a farmer that, if you're not working hard, if you're not still out bedding up and feeding up at 10 o'clock. One of my groups I was working with in Northumberland, they're beef and sheep, and this particular guy, he said, in the winter, I don't get up and go to work if I have to turn the light on. And you could see the group being quite taken aback, thinking, hang on, well, what do you do? And what do the neighbours think? Because a lot of it is, what do the neighbours think? And the guy says, well, to hang with that. And he says, if you're that bothered about it, you can put the light on a timer, and then they think you up. But he says, I work long enough hours. And he says, it's not that I'm lying in bed and being lazy. I'm probably doing something with the kids, or I'm reading, or I'm doing something else. And I just thought that is so, so just taking control over your own life and working smarter, not necessarily working harder. And sometimes when we are our own bosses and we've maybe never worked for anybody else, we've never maybe been shown structures and procedures and protocols and things, we just have that privilege of being able to change our mind, be flexible, go from one job to another. But if we're doing that, are we really being effective and using our time properly? Because I think, you know, there does need to be some changes. And a lot of people now, when we talk about viability of farming, the most resilient businesses I see benchmark. They absolutely know their costs, their inputs, their outputs. They know the benchmarking with other similar businesses. And that's one thing I really urge all of you guys that are on this chat with us this evening is, to spend that time. Because yes, you can be out on the farm doing the stock, doing the grass, doing the crops, doing all of this, but potentially that's your 15 to 20 pound an hour job. But when you are in that office, that is anywhere from 50 pound an hour to maybe even 250 pound an hour, depending what you're doing. If you've managed to negotiate a deal and get your fertilizer and your seed and your spray and your feed in a really good rate, you've managed to lock down your energy and your electric in a really good rate, and your telephone, you could have saved yourself tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. So managing where you spend your time is really, really effective. It's really, really important going forward. And thinking about, you know, if we are wanting to be in this volatile market that we definitely are in, we can't just be disappointed at the end of the year. When the year end is at end of March, And the September after, we're sort of thinking, oh, going to the accountant, how much tax have we got to pay and how much money's left for us? I don't think that's really acceptable now. I think we really do need to be on top of our figures, our costings, breaking down our different enterprises so we know which ones are strong and are doing well and which ones are potentially going to be struggling this year. And then how do we fill those gaps going forward? Because there's so much in life we cannot control. We cannot control the weather, we can't control an awful lot of different things, but we really can control ourselves. So and I remember doing this slide, and one bank was horrified when I said, we need to look at reducing debt. And I get that, because often when times are difficult and challenges, farming are very, very good at knuckling down, cutting costs, and just making do and getting by. But sometimes what we really need to be doing is maybe taking on healthy, good debt, doing some really good investments and everything to make sure that we then have a strong, viable business that is safe and is efficient to work in. So decent cattle crushes, cow floor, sheep handling facilities, gates that open the right way, different things like that, so that then in that timeline that you've got for your career in farming, you're enjoying it and it is safe to work. And when you go and do a job, it is, it's really quick and easy to do. Because one thing that I am really ashamed of when I work in agriculture is our reputation for health and safety. We tragically have one of the worst reputations, that people leave their loved ones to come and work for us, and sadly, they just, some of them just don't go home. And I think, well, why is that? What is it about farming that we have got so laxed on it? Is it because we're rushing, we're cutting corners, we've got away with it, and we're going to do it tomorrow? I don't know, but I think this is something that we really, really do need to address. And by taking a step back from our business and thinking, right, okay, where are the risks? What investments do we need to do, so that then when we're working with cattle, we're working with machinery, that we are safe and we get the job done and everyone comes home well. And sustainable, I am really quite excited about the future of farming. I do believe there are going to be a lot of opportunities. I think there are a number of people and businesses that are thinking, do you know what, time out. We've got to the end of the line where we haven't got the energy. We haven't maybe got succession coming forward. So we're gonna either sell or we're gonna let the land out. So for you guys that are doing the job really, really well, there are going to be significant opportunities to expand and grow. And one thing I really say to my clients that grow is, before you expand or grow, before you diversify, before you build up a new enterprise and business, make sure you really discipline yourself to look at the foundations of your core businesses as they are at the moment. What are the core foundation blocks that you need to manage and to pay attention to, so that then when you do duplicate and grow, that your core business doesn't suffer? Because the last thing you want to do is be a bigger, busier farmer that is losing more money faster. So, look at your cash flow, look at all the different things that you think, right, these are a real simple benchmark and a key indicator of how my business, how my staff, how my farm is performing. And then you can manage it over a ride and, elevate yourself from the farm and keep an eye on it without getting a busier fool. And then, people, generally in farming, we maybe don't really like people. We're not the best with people. If it's just me and the dog, we're all grand. But, we do need people to be successful and to achieve all that we want to achieve going forward. And it's taking the time. And, everybody's so busy, and it really frustrates me when I'm in social circles or working with people, and, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. I've got so much on and I'm juggling so much. And I'm thinking, whoa, 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 is actually busy a really good thing to be? Or, because I think sometimes we're maybe just trying to do too much. Do we need to take a step back and do less and do it better? And if we plan less of our day, and I'm a big advocate of this, of only planning 80% of your day, that then allows you to talk to people, to plan, to be able to cope if the cattle are out, if the sheep are out, if someone's slept in or there's a flat tire. We're not bursting at the seams and we're not just running on empty all the time. Because if we plan 110% of our day, we've already set ourselves, before we've even got out of bed, we have set ourselves up to fail. Whereas if we plan 60 to 80% of our day, that gives us the opportunity to exceed, excel, speak to people, take people with us, and then, maybe even have some time to do another job as well. The other thing, even before COVID, I was starting to get quite concerned and alarmed about the mental health and the mental well-being of a lot of our rural community, the social isolation, the stress, the anxiety. Post-COVID, I think we've got an awful lot of work to do. And we can all be guilty when we are getting down, when things are difficult, of thinking, right, well, I just need to work harder. I just need to work harder and we'll get through it. But sometimes what you really need to do is to stop. And I'm asking all of you that's joined us this evening, how much time do you take away from the farm? How many days off do you have on annual leave? And, I know for some people it might be going to the local show, going to the county show or the national show. It might be sheep sales, cattle sales, different things like that. But actually away from the farm altogether, and a long weekend. I hear a lot of people that, oh, well, Heather, we've never taken a week off. We just couldn't manage that, but we'll maybe get a couple of nights away here and there. But, I really urge you, and I know it's not easy, particularly a number of you will be sort of one woman man bands and very much self-reliant on your own labour. But the value it will give you and your family for you to take that time away from the farm is so, so important. Because when you only take a night or 2 nights away, you are generally so stressed trying to get all the work done. So you've got, all the work done that you were going to do when you were away, that when you get in the car, you are absolutely knackered. You've probably forgotten something and had to turn around and go back up the road again. And then generally, if it's anything like my experiences, you possibly just sleep for the day, day and a half. And if we're lucky, we might have sort of half a day where we're quite nice and have a bit chat and get our head up and look around us before we're starting to get sort of build up about what we've got to face when we get home and what's broken and what's got mixed up and things. But if you can take a week or even better, a fortnight away from your business, it allows you to stop, to think. It allows you to rest. It allows you to sleep. It allows you to see other things, experience other things, and to learn and to read and just to recover. Because I know a number of you maybe think that you are superhuman, like, some Arnold Schwarzenegger or all these lovely new sexy super human action figures that are out there. But we are human, and we do hurt, we do bleed, we do break, and we do need to rest. And sleep is one of the most important things that we can do. And trust me, I speak from the heart here. I can be a pretty phenomenal sort of energy power button at times, but then if I do not get my sleep, holy Moses, you do not want to be around me. I can be a different person to deal with. And I think that affects, again, how we engage with problems, how we engage with challenges, and how we engage with relationships and everything as well, depending how we're feeling. So, what makes a resilient person? And I've seen with a number of my clients, they all start off, it's fine when we're just working one or two man-woman bands with the livestock, everything's great. And then as we grow and we get bigger, what we're dealing with tends to be more business, people, HR, different challenges and everything as well. And a number of folks say, I've just fallen out of love with farming, Heather. I used to love what I'm doing, but it's no longer what I like to do. And I was thinking about this I was doing a leadership course with the young farmers just this week, and we were talking there about what makes a good leader, what makes a resilient person. And we were looking at the traits and everything of it. And I just wanted to ask you if, where you see yourself on this slide. And I guess different days, different circumstances, different things, we might bounce about with, to be on both sides. But start thinking about yourself if you've noticed a change in how you feel, if you've noticed a change in how you react, if you've noticed a change in other people, maybe staff or family, or other people that's working around you, because generally, we can cope with a bit of shit, a little bit of a little bit of adrenaline and everything. But if we're starting to find now when things go wrong that we're feeling more stressed, we're flapping, or someone's going very quiet and they're unsure and they're starting to make rash decisions, or to-ing and fro-ing, they just can't make a decision. Um, we're snapping, we're aggressive, or we're maybe panicking all the time as well, or sometimes we're just getting overwhelmed and we worry a lot more, and we're getting low of energy and we're feeling very constrained and restricted, and feeling closed in, and maybe the world's going to end. And I know I can feel like that when I'm just burning the candle at both ends and I haven't booked my holidays in. And I know that I fare really, really well working hard, long hours and everything, but then I need to touch base with friends. I need to have a social. I need to have time to just sleep and have peace and quiet as well. And if I can keep that balance in my life, I'm generally pretty calm. And you see this with people in organizations, we call it the proverbial duck or the swan on the water, rather than, the Tasmanian devil on the other side that's going absolutely mad. People who are in a good, strong place, and that generally when things happen, things go wrong, or there's an additional pressure on, that tend to remain calm. They tend to be very focused. They can see where we are. We don't let distractions, things happening. We share the plan, we share the story, we share the trouble, we share the issue that's coming. But actually we can still have a bit of fun and be quite positive and happy going forward as well. We've got a big picture. We can see, that this is just where we are at the moment. Give it a couple of years. We're going to get through this. This is how it's going to look. Yeah, but don't worry, I've always got a solution. We can do this, this, and this. They're always thinking about plan A, B, and C. They believe in themselves and they believe in their ability, but they're also adaptable. They're able to change and adapt to the different circumstances, the different skill sets, and bring different people in as well. They tend to have a good energy level and have a real can-do attitude, but also within the business and the organization, they are more than happy to roll up the sleeves and do any job within the organization. And they are inclusive and they listen. The other thing they tend to be is pretty inspirational and charismatic, and they take responsibility. Look, this is on me. I'm going to make the decision here. Let's go with it. And if it goes wrong, it's my do. And they've got real integrity. And so just for me, I do know sometimes, you can practice what you preach, but think about those. And if you're seeing a change in family, staff, and everything as well, and just have a little chat to see if they do need a little bit of time out. And so, yes, who am I? I wish I've had too many holidays and having too much of a good life. But as Katie said, Heather Wildman, Xavier Associates, I started my business up 10 years ago, and I was a knowledge exchange officer for AHDB, and I loved what I did. Absolutely loved working with farmers, doing discussion groups, and it was great. And then things sort of changed, and I knew I needed to do something different. I was doing my discussion groups. I was starting to get a little bit frustrated. At the end of the meetings, we'd have speakers from all over, and thought, we're like buzzed up and great. Oh, this is great, Heather. Brilliant speaker. Yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then I would see them a couple of months later and I'd say, so go on then, what did you do? Did you do that grazing? Did you change that thing with the stock? Did you do the worm count? You know, all these different things. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, actually, no, Heather, life kind of got in the way. I didn't get round to it. And this started to get me frustrated. And I started to feel pretty ineffective in what I was doing. And I started to question, how do you influence and motivate change? You know, what is it that when some people attend a meeting, listen to a podcast, join a new group, that they suddenly, become fit, they're running marathons, they're teetotal, they transform their breeding, their genetics, the grazing and everything as well. So how do you influence and motivate change? And it was at this point in 2012, I was very lucky to be awarded an Nuffield Farming Scholarship. And if any of you are under 45 and have an itch to scratch, or you know of someone within your family or network that's under 45, I could not recommend highly enough a Nuffield Farming Scholarship. I left school at 15. I didn't go to college, didn't go to university. I went to the University of Life that is Young Farmers. But this for me was my advancement. It really took me out of my comfort zone. This was me mustering in 3,500 head of Aberdeen Angus cattle in Montana. Yep, that was before Yellowstone, and it's still one of my greatest achievements. And my challenge was influencing and motivating change. And I went to Chile, Peru, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, Ireland, and Wales. And I had an absolute amazing time. It is not a holiday, it is a lot of work. I was away for about 11 weeks and I visited businesses all over those countries. And there was ranchers, there was farmers, there was knowledge transfer, there was social science, there was government, there was computer programmers, there was a whole massive industries, different levels, different sizes, and everything from all over those different countries. And when I came back, you have to write an article. And for me, the real key of these businesses, and some of them had gone through incredible volatility, hostile takeovers, bankruptcy, mental breakdowns, physical breakdowns, marital breakdowns, community breakdowns, and everything as well. And then they'd been able to build them up and change them and really drive their businesses, lives, and families forward. And when I broke it all down, these businesses that had succeeded to influence and motivate change and were really driving things forward, they all had three simple things in common. They all had a vision. They had a vision, they had a dream, they knew where they wanted to be, they knew where they were now, and they knew how they were going to get there. And that for me was absolutely key. So, I'd like to ask you guys, how many of you have a vision, a dream, or a goal? And I'm sure a number of you will. But the difference that these guys had, they didn't just have it in their heads. They'd actually written it down and they'd actually verbalized it. And a vision and a dream or a goal that is written down and verbalized is 80% more likely to come true. And that is a huge, huge ratio. Then they communicated this with everyone that was involved in their businesses, from the top to the bottom. And they communicated what was relevant to the people that were working within their businesses so that they knew where, what, how, and why they were doing things and the impact it was going to have on the business. The other thing they did was they had a really strong collaboration. They knew their strengths, they knew their weaknesses, they knew their skill sets. And then they looked and brought in other people, other organizations, and other businesses to help them achieve their goals. So I want you to think about your own business. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? How are you going to get there? Who do you need to communicate this to? In what format do you need to communicate it? How often? And what do they need to know? And then who do you need with you to achieve it? So ideally your family, your staff, maybe your neighbours, maybe your bank manager, your accountant, maybe your supplier, your contractors and different things like that, your agronomist, your nutritionist, your vet. Who all do you need with you to help you achieve that goal? Because when you do pull it all together, the results are absolutely mind-blowing. Because when you truly believe in what you're doing, it shows. And that's not just the owner, the manager, the top team. That is everybody within your business. And it pays. And winners in life, they're excited about where they're going. And that's what I really, really saw when businesses did have a real clarity of vision, a dream, and a goal, and they had a team with them that was all bought into that vision and dream. It was so contagious. It was so powerful. And just imagine, that, they even smiled. They loved what they were doing. And you can see, organizations, groups, and sports clubs, when they're doing well, everybody wants to be with them, and it's like magnetic. It really draws you with you. The other thing that was there was, everyone within the organization was deeply passionate about what they were doing and why they were with that organization and that business. So think about your own farm, your own community and everything. Does everybody know about it? Has everybody got it? Does everyone care and passionate about it and know what their role is within that organization? The next thing to be successful and to really survive in a commercial, volatile industry, they all knew their economic engines. They knew their costs, they knew their incomes, they knew their competitors, they knew their margins, they knew where they wanted to be. And they had a real strong business plan and control over their finances and business. And then the next thing, which I know a number of my clients will say, well, I like that, Heather, I get the other two, but I don't really want to be the best in the world. But we live and work in a really competitive marketplace, whether it be for staff, whether it be for land, whether it be for money, whether it be for contracts and things as well. So what is your reputation? And are you as good as you can be? And are you better than those around you? And I think that's something that for me really, really stood out because, we have to really look at our reputation as agriculture, food and farming, employers, custodians of the land and the environment and everything as well. And are we really as good as we can be? And how can we improve that? But as we know, it's all well and good coming up with these things, but life isn't straightforward. And it can catch us by the breeks when we think we're firing on ahead. So for me, one of the things I've really learned is that you need to take time to stop and to think. And I want you just to take a moment now, and I might just put this on pause just for a minute to if anybody's got any questions, because I want you to think about what are your goals? Where are you now? Where do you want to be for the next 1, 5, 10, 20 years? Now, I don't know how old you all are. I'm sure we've got a very young audience, Katie. And, some of you might have, another 15, 20 years of career left. Some of you might be in the last sort of in the wind down of your career. And some of you might just be beginning your career and have, your whole future ahead of you. But think about where you are now because life goes so quickly. Like, I cannot believe here we are on the 23rd of October. My God, it seems just a blink and a wink away since it was New Year. And, we're getting the Christmas shopping in the shops already, which is just terrifying. And, the last 5 years, here we are, 2024. What were you doing in 2019? It was, and 2012, and before we know it, we're going to be 2030, 2035. So by having these goals down, what do you want for you personally? What do you want for your business and for your work? And what do you want for your home and your family? And people often find it easier doing home and work, because if I'm not at home, I'm at work, and if I'm not at work, I'm at home. But often we struggle a little bit on the me, the I, the personal. But for me, if we don't look after the me, the I, the personal, we can never be our full self for home and for work. This is when we get run down. This is when we get tired. This is when we get shingles, the cold. This is when we get cross and lose our tempers and things, and we get burnout. So I want you just to take a moment, and I might just take the screen off sharing just to see if anybody has any questions on that one. How are we all doing?
Adrian, you just need to unmute yourself, don't forget. Thank you.
Evening,
Oh,
Mrs. Wildman.
hello, how are you? I get to
Very
see
well.
who's on here now. This is a lot more interesting. I can see you.
I'm gonna throw you in at the deep end then, but I know it's your strength. So how do you hand over a business to the next generation whilst removing yourself from it at the same time?
Right, sorry, just repeat that again because you just cut out a little bit for me, Adrian.
How do you hand over your business to the next generation whilst removing yourself from it at the same time?
Okay. So first of all, I think the business needs to be you need to be financially independent. I think that makes a massive, massive difference to being able to step back from a business if you have financial security. Because if you've got financial security, when the next generation come in, they are then allowed that freedom to make mistakes, to make investments, to borrow money that isn't going to necessarily affect your security going forward. I think the other thing is it's wonderful. So are you telling me that you're looking at stepping right back and letting them come on?
Not yet.
No, but if
You know that well enough.
so if you know, in a wonderful way, is that when the exiting generation is ready to leave, they are financially independent, they've got a property to live in, separate to the farm. The next generation has come in, and it's not like that you've got a test for them to do, but they have proved themselves that they have the abilities, that they have the sensible maturity and the ability to run the business, to carry it forward, going forward. And I think it's quite nice when an exiting generation can still be there, maybe as a non-exec director, to offer support, offer mentoring, and just be there to sort of check in with them. But a lot depends on personalities and whether you can all get on and whether you agree with the direction they're taking it in. Does that help?
Well, yeah, you know my views. Pensions are crucial. So part two, I'd like you to look into your crystal ball and tell me, is there anything I should be doing before Wednesday next week to make myself more viable?
Have you got a big mattress? Yeah, it is. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? And I
They
guess that's
remove agricultural property relief, all hell's going to break loose.
yeah. And we just don't know to what degree and when it'll come in either. But I think there is going to be change. I think they're going to do something at some point, and it will have an impact. But you know, change happens, doesn't it? Yeah. Has
Cheers, Heather.
anybody any other questions from going on the goal setting and everything?
Eric, do you want to just unmute yourself and then ask your question? You're not, you still, you need to unmute yourself, Eric.
My name is Eric Reid from North Ireland. I am just after handing over my farm to my son. I was 52 years in my previous job in the chicken industry, and we have 28 people on the screen tonight. We have one of the largest processors in Europe, and your address has been very, very good. You were talking about bringing in experts. Hopefully there's 28 there on the screen. We have our processor that most of us are all sending our stock to. And you then talked about a strong business plan. And what I would love to see is ABP and yourself is identifying all the costs. And I'm in the beef business. I will be supporting my son. I'm coming up to 82 years of age in this beef production job. But it's the business plan, and we should be able to identify all costs in producing beef. And I would love to see yourself and Katie just drawing up that business plan. I've attended a few meetings, and that's the one thing that's missing in all of the meetings that I attend, that business plan, so that we can see, can we make money to pay the bills? And the sooner we do that, it's done in the chicken industry, why can it not be done in the beef industry? And it only takes one or two people to drive it. And the people who are on that screen there tonight.
Yeah. Well, I love you. I passed on my commission there. Thank you, Eric, for promoting me there, and well done on your succession and your years in service as well. And it is, we all need each other. And that's when I see businesses and industries and organizations working, is when there's a trust and respect, and it's not that there's that fear of giving information and it being used against us in a lot of the agricultural sectors. But in a real collaborative approach, we all benefit by, if we know what the market is and we make sure there's enough for everybody to cover their cost and have some margin and profit there for investment and for pensions and looking after the future. I think it's a great industry, and I personally would love to see more of that, definitely. Okay, anything
Paul,
else?
there is 2 other questions. So Paul, and then there's one I'll read out. So Paul, just unmute yourself and then carry on.
Yes, thanks very much. No, I think in the current climate, I think ABP and our processing retailers are crucial for us to remain sustainable and viable and to keep the balance right. We were never more in need of support from ABP. ABP is a very, very successful multinational company, built upon initially upon the producers over here in these islands. At the minute, it's very, very difficult for us to try and plan a future for ourselves and for our families, because, as you know, we're facing a barrage of changes, and I blame the farmer culture. And at the minute, both our hands are tied behind our backs with regard to planning and a lot of these environmental things that come down the road, issues with disease control, planning, everything is a swathe of things at the minute, which are having a huge social, economic and financial impact upon us. And it's very, very hard to try and maintain the balance when you don't know what the rules or regulations or where the goalposts are going to be tomorrow. And we're never more in need of support from the rest of the supply chain, saying, look, yes, we are committed to you guys, and yes, we're going to lobby on your behalf. Like this neighbouring farmer of mine took his life this year. There's another farmer beside us has left the industry for health reasons. And there's very few farmers out there won't, if truth be told, they're good farmers and they're doing everything to try and maintain as balanced a life as they can and as good a business as they can, but it does impact on your physical and your mental health. It's just the nature of the business we're in. And as I say, we need ABP to lobby on our behalf at the minute with the various government bodies and the various guys out there to say, look, these guys are core, particularly here in Ireland and Northern Ireland. The agri-food sector is a huge part of the economy. And not only are family farms, impacted, but the entire rural community is supported by the family farms directly and indirectly through the various support sectors in the supply chain. But definitely, yeah,
Paul, I'm
a very
sorry
good presentation, but we need your support, in trying to maintain, we need your support with the likes of the policymakers to say, look, you need to help these guys to adapt here and to maintain a food supply chain in the country,
Paul, yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry to hear about, your experiences with your neighbour and everything as well. And this is why we do need to really look at why are we farming? and are we enjoying it, and are we making a living? And we're not actually entitled to make a living. And this is the real difficult thing. You know, I could be speaking to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Jones down the road. You know, they're all finding it difficult. They're all finding the same challenges. They're all having to change and maybe get extra jobs, look at doing differently. So I think sometimes, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think sometimes in agriculture we can be a little bit entitled in thinking that we should get support, someone should have our back. But every industry, every sector, I'll be thinking exactly the same. You know, the housewife with the electric, the feed bill, the cost of getting the children to school. You know, the challenge at the school, are the teachers getting the doctor's appointment. You know, it is an unfortunate circumstance where we are. But also in agriculture, we have such incredible opportunity if we will just lift our heads up and actually start seeing the positive of what we can do and what we can change. And I think there are people that maybe do need to say, time out. I don't want to farm. I can't farm under these restrictions and constraints, and let the next generation come through, because there are some fantastic farmers and young farmers that are champing to get going, absolutely champing. And, you know, a lot of the regulations, a lot of the changes that are coming in place, if we are open-minded and we are looking and listening and looking at the community, a lot, not all of them, but some of them, you know, some of the costings, the environment, the animal checks and audits that we've got to do, you know, the mobility scoring, all these kind of things, a lot of them are quite sensible. But depending where we are, we can often feel like it's a stick been beaten against us, rather than think, right, well, how can I be better than anyone else? How can we be better than Argentina? How can we be better than Australia? How can we be better than New Zealand? How can we be better than these other countries? And, you know, we keep saying we have the best beef, we have the best land, we have the best farmers, but actually, do we? And again, I might just have 27 people turn off here, but you know, I know myself, when I drive and go around, there are farms and businesses that I would be uncomfortable if Mrs. Smith and Mr. Jones from down the road were on their farms. And, you know, that's what we have to be really honest as an industry, and take accountability for where we're good, but also not complain, actually think, right, let's go to the politicians, let's go to the companies, let's go to the organizations, go to the public, because we're very quick at going to the public when we're unhappy and the markets are down. But when do we say thank you when things are good? When do we applaud and bring them in and just say, like, without your support that you gave us during the, you know, the milk crisis, during foot and mouth, during, you know, whatever it might have been, we would not be here with you. So I think we do have to look at our language, our narrative, and we have to help and look out for our neighbours, because I'm with you. I'm in Northern Ireland quite a lot with the Royal Countryside Fund and through the rural support, and with the young farmers out there as well. So I'm very much aware that, you know, there's and I think the split between those that are doing well and those that are struggling is just growing, and it's what and how we manage that. So do we have one last question, Kate, before I go back in? Because we could just
I think I'll bring the questions at the end, because we've got 2 more hands up and a question. So I'll let you carry on and I'll bring the questions at the end.
Or we can just blether and chat as well. Now then, this is where I'm going to see if my presentation can come back on. Yeah. Okay. So, and I get what you're saying, it's hard to have a vision, a plan when we don't know what the companies and organizations are doing. But in defense of the companies and the organizations, when we do our surveys as farmers, when we send back that we're nervous, we're looking at retiring, we've no confidence. So therefore then the banks, the industries, the supermarkets and everything are thinking, well, hang on, if there's no confidence in here, where do we go to invest our money and lend our money to? So I think what I've learned in agriculture is the tenacity and the desire and the addiction to farm is huge. So actually, let's turn that round and say, we are going to be here for the future. We are going to be here for the next few generations. This is what we need. So for me as a person, I need to be able to have my weekends off, or every other weekend off, for business and work. I want a business that is safe, that is enjoyable, that is generating however much profit, that is giving me so much work-life balance, but also whatever the breed, the genetics, whatever is your driver, whether it's be winning the shows, whether it be getting the most profit, the greatest live weight gain, the best bull price, or whatever it might be. And then home and family. Do you want to be married? Do you want to be divorced? Do you want to have a house? Do you want to, what are you looking for? All of these things, and get those written down, because when you have some direction, when you are frustrated at the the political policy, culture, the lack of leadership that may be out there, you can still take some drive in your own business. And it is looking at who is the marketplace, and it's you guys coming together. Remember your vision. Okay, we want a strong beef and sheep and meat industry out there. We want ABP to work with us. We want a strong community and everything. Start using those languages, and instead of having the fears and worries, we need to step forward, because what is happening now is people are not standing forward for committees, for organisations, not turning up and lobbying. And these MPs, governments, politicians, like, I wouldn't want that job for all the tea in China. But fair play to the guys that are doing it. But whatever someone puts their heads up and says, I will lead this country, I feel passionate about it, do we get behind them and support them, or do we criticise them? Do we look at them and say, well, you'd be better at home doing a better job farming? Oh, you got me on a bandwagon now. So we really need, if we have good people with good voices, we need to get behind them and pay them in those jobs so that they can leave their family businesses and farms and actually take that leadership, drive the capabilities, and bring that industry forward and change the politics and change the culture. Because often it is that lack of involvement that really helps us procrastinate and dig in. But, we need to back these people that we believe in. And when someone does step forward, they need our support, because it's pretty daunting when folk do take that time away from their family businesses and their families. So let's identify these people, and hopefully we can make some changes. Because and listening to some of those questions and experiences you've said, I love this diagram. And, when something happens, whether it be, yes, Adrian, the change in tax next week, whether it be, the neighbour that sadly decided there is no other option for them, whether it be, we've lost an animal, we've got blue tongue, we've got whatever it might be, the shock for me, it's shock. Oh my God, it can't happen. It won't have happened. Then there's denial, and then there's frustration, and then depression. And I know myself, well, some days I can go through all these emotions, but I can be fine. But I can get, if I don't get that time out and my contacts to put things into perspective, depression is such a real thing, and folk call it the black dog, and some people it's just a bad day, a bad mood, and other people, it really sinks low. And we're very, very lucky in our industry now that there are so many organizations out there that have got this on the radar and really checking in on people. But it's us. And it can seem such empty words when saying, well, tomorrow will be another day. And is it a bad day, or is it a disaster? And is life over? And it's putting it all into perspective, and then encouraging. And it is a mindset and thinking, right, well, let's try something different. And then once you've tried something different, has it worked? Has it not? If it has worked, right, let's keep doing that. And then we move it forward. And lo and behold, we've moved forward. And I know for myself, I have had some terrible, terrible things that I've experienced through life that you think you're not going to be able to get through it. But it is really about having good people. But it's also a lot about making sure we look after ourselves and we're not running on empty. Because as much as you think you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm afraid we do breathe and bleed. So when it comes to succeeding and getting where we want to be, unfortunately, as much as we'd like to blame other people, it actually does come down to you. What is your purpose? What are you driving for? What is your motivator? What do you want to achieve? Then have you got the courage to go out and make it happen? And will you be accountable for what you succeed in and what you do well? But also, will you be accountable for when we maybe could have done things better and things didn't go right? And then, are you a role model? So if we're looking about succession and wanting the next generation to come in, would you work for you? Have you inspired the next generation, your family, employees, that this is an incredible work-life and industry to be involved in? Because if you're always moaning, miserable, tired, knackered, why on earth would anyone want to be farming? And I know a lot of farmers, it's a bit of a game. And I could never understand it when I used to go sales repping and different things on farms. And I'd go in and oh, it was all wummy and this shit, this is rubbish, that's wrong. Oh, it's this, it's that and the other. And I'm going, whoa. Oh, I've told the kids, go and get another job. You don't want to be in agriculture, you don't want to be farming. I'm going, whoa. Well, what would you rather be doing? Oh, don't be ridiculous, Heather. I love what I do. I love farming. And I'm thinking, well, why on earth do we have to go through this charade? Why can't we just say, we love what we're doing, and actually tell our faces as well and smile? Who stole the fun out of farming? And that's another thing that we really need to look at, is when we are engaged in meetings, engaged in communities and organizations, how do we sell ourselves? Because if you were having someone come into you that kept saying that, oh, I've got a garage and it's miserable, I can't get customers, and it's too dear, it's too this, too that, would you want to go there? What would you say to them? And that's why I think, we need to look in the mirror. We really need to look in the mirror and then have the courage and to be accountable and to drive our own purpose and to be that role model. Because success, we see folk and think, oh, well, it's all right for such and such. They've had it easy. They inherited a farm, or they've got this, that, and the other, but actually it wasn't easy. Anyone that has been successful, they have had disappointment. They have had to be persistent, going again, trying again. They have put the hard yard in and they have taken risks. There's been late nights, there's been struggles. They will have lost markets. There's competition coming in, and they have had to have courage and they have had their doubts. Imposter syndrome is real and alive. They will have had criticism. They will have had personal failures, adversity, rejection, and they will have had to make sacrifices to make it happen. So this is what we really need to do as well. And again, have we got the energy to do that? And if we haven't, we need to take a look at it. And I am genuinely seeing an awful lot of businesses and farmers now, because there was a big push at one point, wasn't there, that everyone says, oh, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. If you're not growing, you're going backwards. But I am seeing now many, many businesses saying, do you know what? We are bigger than we've ever been. I'm working harder than I've ever done. I'm making as little money as I've ever made, and I'm not happy. So why am I doing it? And they're really starting to assess their business and maybe pulling back, refining it, and doing less but doing better. And the enjoyment that they're getting from that. And then you've just got to deal with, what will the neighbours think? So another way I look at planning your goals and everything is the triangle. And, where are you on a 1 to 10 today? When I talk about, your goals that you want to achieve in your 1, 5, 10, 20 years, whatever it might be, where are you on a 1 to 10 of how you feel today at home and with family, with work and your career, and then the me, the I. And I'd like you, if you have got pen and paper, just to take a moment and just put a cross of how you are. So the lighter greens is where I was back in 2013. I had an awful lot going on in my life, and I had some pretty serious and major disappointments and changes that were going on. And I was in a pretty low way. So the smaller lighter green, the smaller triangle is where I was. And it was someone that phoned me up and said, Heather, a few of us are quite worried about you. I'm going to ring you back in a fortnight, and I want to know what you're going to be doing in 5 years. And at that point, I was thinking, well, I actually don't even know if I'm going to be here. I'll probably be stacking shelves, and I'd just got myself in a low way. And then he said, well, okay, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And some people say, well, you know, you have to be 10 out of 10. For me, 10 out of 10 isn't realistic. But I was happy to be, if I could be an 8, that was going to be pretty good. I'd be really, really chuffed if I could be an 8. So I want you guys to think, where are you now in work, life, career? And be honest with yourself. And then where do you aspire to be? Now, you might be in a really, really good place. So how do you maintain that? So then what I want you to do is the gap. So in mine, as you can see on the screen, there's some pretty big gaps. Thinking about your 5, 10 year plan where you want to be, what needs to be in those gaps to actually help you either maintain where you are so it doesn't slip, or to help you achieve where you want to be? What kind of thing does it need to be? And that will really help. You know, is it personal time? Is it going on holidays? Is it reading more books? Is it going to the gym? Is it cycling another marathon? Is it career? Is it asking for a pay rise? Is it actually taking a step back? Is it bringing someone into the business? Is it rechanging the business? Is it actually getting in top of all the figures and the data and everything as well? Home and family, you know, do you make time for your family? And you know they won't always wait for you, and that's one thing I've definitely learned. And for me, I was one night when I was reading, and I love this slide: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. And the mindset of successful people, you know, they are always learning and growing. And for me, it's really, really key to, you know, some of the oldest people have got the youngest minds, and some of the youngest people are so negative and contained, you know, so always be learning, always be growing. Think about how you can fix problems. Don't complain about them. So that's going to throw back at you what you've been saying about the supply chain and everything as well. How can you fix that problem? Take smart risks and learn from failure. And we do need to take risks. And I think as you know, a lot of the times we're worried about risks and failure, so that stops us doing anything. And a calculated risk, you know, it doesn't always go right, but I'm sure you'll have learned from it and then move forward from it. The next thing is really set clear goals and work on them every day. Have a list, what your goal is for the 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, and every day do one thing to get closer to where you want to be. And if you've had a bad day, don't write it off. Have a journal, have a diary. What went right? Why did it go right? And how did that feel? What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? And how do we improve on that in future? Because often in farming in life, we're just always, there's so much to do. We actually forget what we've achieved and how far we've come. And that is another great thing by writing down and having these benchmarks. Stay strong when things get tough. Challenges will come, but successful people do not give up. They dig deep, they stay strong, they keep pushing forward. Find a mentor and learn from them. Have good people and good networks around you who understand, who are positive, and who will push and support you. Please, please make health a top priority. You've got to look after you. If you are not fitting well, you will never be your best at work or at home. And be reliable. Turn up, dress up, get up. Keep your word. Trust and respect are so key. And then be thankful for what we have. Sometimes we are so busy looking over the fence and moaning, we actually don't realise how blooming lucky we are and what a great place we've got. And it is our choice to be doing what we are doing. But, you know, it doesn't always go right. I have that great aspiration of the first slide, and yeah, I could take a little bit of heed, and I know myself. I really do. I had a horrible accident in February, and I'm not exactly where I want to be myself. So I am really trying to practice what I preach in making sure that I do have time to do the dog walking, to do the exercise, and to just have peace and quiet time. But I am really, really fortunate. I have a job that I absolutely adore and love. So it doesn't feel like working. But, you know, in summary, you have one life. Your expiry date might come early or late. So don't waste time. Live your life. Love it. Laugh, live, love. And most importantly, surround yourself by people who bring out the best in you. Are you surrounded by radiators who lift you up, motivate you, push you, challenge you, pull you, really bring out the best in you? Or are you surrounded by drains, negative, putting you down, always moaning, bragging, you know, just negative people? And if they're family, that is really, really difficult. So what are you going to do? And actually, are you a radiator or are you a drain? And in final, 3 simple rules. If you do not go after what you want, you will never have it. If you do not ask, the answer will always be no. And if you do not step forward, you will always be in the same place. Thank you. So let's get those questions, Katie.
Okay, thank you. So Sean's question was, how do you gain the confidence to leave full-time employment with a reasonably good wage and think about going to farming full-time? He's currently working full-time as well as farming and putting almost as many hours into the farm as his job.
Are you insane? You've got security in a job. Do your numbers. Do your numbers and really stress test those numbers. And then really think about how are you going to, you know, what's the plan B? What if things go wrong? And actually get someone else that's in the industry to check over your numbers and things as well. And then just go for it. If you believe that you're going to be okay. And I think, you know, looking at your farming, that there's a lot of jobs now that we can do, diversification that can bring in, you know, if you're going to do your farming, make sure it's streamlined, it's lean, and it's really efficient. So that then when you are working on the farm, you're doing the job once and you're doing it right and you're doing it well. And, you know, probably look at still having your backup plan of a second job for a wee while just to give you that confidence as well. But for me, it is all about doing your numbers.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, if you just unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Okay, for some reason our camera isn't working, which could be a good thing, but yeah. So I've got two, one's a sort of question and one's a sort of just a comment on what Heather was saying. So I'll get the comment out of the way. So we've been doing school visits and not just schools, but some adult visits for small groups of adults for the farm. And Heather's definitely right about talking to people about what you do, because we have found that whole opening the farm and showing people around and explaining things, we get very passionate about it, but their feedback, it really uplifts us. It really lifts our confidence in terms of, oh yeah, we do really enjoy it, don't we? And they sort of said, oh, well, we've had a really good morning and we really enjoyed it. And we actually say, actually, it's done us a lot of good because we're now sharing our story with other people that might not know it. So I would recommend everyone, you know, even if you just host, you know, 10 people from the WI and show them around one evening, it really does. Actually saying it out loud and explaining what you do to people that don't understand, it's very it's a really good experience. But my question is on behalf of Joe and I. So we are, I would describe us as in a sandwich. So we're in a sandwich between an elderly generation. So my parents, both, you know, luckily very well, but sort of mid-80s, and a younger generation that are doing other careers. So we're sort of hence why the camera's not on. So we're sort of mid to late 50s, and we're really struggling to actually come up with a vision. And I know that sounds, everyone has like dream of what they want to do, but we really are struggling to come up with a vision. And then without a vision, we can't set goals, because there seems to be so many options of what might happen in the future. So a question is really, is there a process that we can sort of do to actually try and get a vision? That we even struggle to know what, if we ever stop working, if we, you know, what hobbies we do. We're so really struggling with the vision thing. Yeah, is there a process if we don't really know?
Rachel, brilliant, and full commendment to you with your open farm and doing the work you're doing on that one. So the way I work, because it can be, where do we start? So I would get a big piece of paper and write down all of your assets. Where are we now? So are we a sole trader, are we a partnership, are we a limited company? What's in the partnership, what isn't, what's in the business, what isn't, what do we own privately, and what is the business, what's movable, what's fixed, what pension saving, properties, diversifications, all these other things have we got, and actually write down everything. And that, to start with, can be a real eye opener and give you oxygen and air, because you think, oh, it's not been for nothing. Then I just play about with your family with some scenarios. What do you want to do? And now's the time to do it, when we're open, we can get on, there's no stress, there's no fallout, and there's no financial pressure. And just play about and actually have a big visionary sheet that you park ideas and just come back to it. So you could say, right, we're going to get everyone together and think, right, well, what do you really want? Or what do you not want? And let's just have a dartboard or a piece of paper that we have different things on. And then, right, we're going to meet up in a month's time and let's just play about with scenarios. And how much money do you need to live and to retire on to enable the next generation to be independent and for you to be secure? Because you need to be financially secure. And, you know, there's a lot of pressure and talk about now of transferring all assets when we get to a certain age because of care home. And I did a session the other day and the accountant says, you know, do you know what the average a lifetime in a care home is? And it's about 2 years. But that could still be, you know, about £100,000. You're looking at probably £50,000 to £100,000 a year for care home costs, depending on the care home. But, you know, so thinking about what you want, where you want to live, and how much money you need, and the same with your children coming forward, because some people don't need an awful lot. They maybe just need 10 to 20,000 a year to retire on because we have a property and we live quite frugally. Other people might need 50 to 100. You know, will the farm have to keep you in retirement, or have you got independent and private funding to keep you in your retirement? So that's where I think I would start, Rachel, and then that'll help you model it and just come back to it. You don't have to do it all in one day, and just play with it and have a family WhatsApp group or a chat that you say, right, we're going to come back in a month and we're just going to play about with this, and what do you think? And walk around the farm as a family. Does somebody want a little bit of land? Does somebody want to do something? You know, would somebody rather, I'm not really interested in the farm. You know, for me, if I could get £20,000, wow, that would make such a difference, because I could put a deposit on a house and giving people their legacy earlier when you're alive and able to see them, and they're able to build and grow on it as well. So I'm not sure if that helps and answers.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think I think someone alluded to it earlier, is the uncertainty of what might happen. So but yeah, I like the idea of writing everything down and having a play around with I think the figures will probably help us we'll know then what vision we need to have.
But Rachel, everybody has uncertainty in all aspects of life. This is not just agriculture, and that's where we need to lift ourselves out of the war. You know, I know you're not being a woman, but it's not just agriculture. Everybody has this uncertainty.
And the last tiny little bit, how do you ask the next generation, if, without putting pressure on them, if they might ever be interested in coming back to the farm? Because we've always been a slightly conscious of not asking directly, but should we be more direct?
Just ask that question. So many times it's like a dance, nobody wants to bring it up. And you know, for me, the way I do it is, you know, you need to, because sometimes all we talk about is, oh, we've no money and it's really hard and it's really difficult. So the next generation don't want to bring it up because they know it's really hard, really difficult, and mum and dad have worked really hard. And, you know, they're maybe wanting to come back. And sometimes I find that they're not wanting to come back until maybe about 30, and then it can completely change at 30 because they've had the career experience. They're now recognizing what a lovely life and upbringing they had. They may be thinking about children, so they may be thinking about coming home. So sometimes they need some scenarios. So I would say, do you mind if we just have a little bit of a chat about what you think about the future? Because me and Dad were sort of thinking, you know, we've got another 5, 10, 20 years left, but we've loved it here and we'd like to give you the opportunity. But is this something that is attractive to you? And if it is attractive, how would it look? What would you like? How would you see it? And, you know, we're not going to be offended. And let's just have a little chat and then leave it. Because I think some people think they have to have that chat and it needs to be all sorted. Have the little chat and think, well, why don't we, next time you're back, why don't we go and show you this, that, and the other? And why don't we go and have a look at this? And then go in, think about it, and let's review it in a year or two, depending what your timeline and the urgency is.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'm just going to slot a question into you, Heather, from linking on from what Rachel said. I'm sure she doesn't mean that she hasn't got any hobbies whatsoever, but I was just thinking, when you obviously farmers taking a break, getting off farm, should everybody be thinking about a hobby of some sort? If they're not doing any sort of breaks, or even if they are going on breaks, everybody probably should maybe think about what they want to spend their time doing and maybe do something a bit different and not spend every hour farming.
Yeah, I think it would be unfair of me to dictate on how people should live their lives, because some people, they genuinely, their life is farming and they are never happier than when they're pottering about, pootering about, and, you know, their whole ambition is to be the gopher and to not have, you know, that great Cammy, the sheep game, you know, twice a boy, once a man, to be told what to do, to be able to be there to support, to go and fetch and carry. And it's just absolutely a delight when they see the next generation coming through. And I think that's grand. And as long as everybody can get on, and that's where we have that chat about a little bit of roles and responsibilities, a little bit of hours, and when we turn up, and our degrees of separation. So if we all get on and it's a harmonious relationship and everyone is happy with everyone doing what they're doing, you know, who am I to tell anybody to change? You know, go for it. But when we do need a bit of space and things, I had one farmer that said to me, Heather, he says, my daughter's going to take over the farm. And he says, it's right. She's brilliant. She's ready for it. She needs to do it. I had the chance. She needs to have the chance. But I know I can't be there when she's farming because we're just such different people. It'll just destroy our relationship. So he says, I'm really, really struggling to look at how I'm going to fulfill my time, because we do need pride, purpose. We do need something to get up for and a bit of routine as well. And so and I thought I had such respect for that gentleman in that he acknowledged it and recognized it, because sometimes we don't. And that's when we can get a bit frustrated in relationships. And he started looking at different things and taking a bit of time out. And, you know, you guys, you have so much skill and knowledge. And sometimes this mentorship scheme, you know, we often can't work with our own kids and families, but God, we could be a great help with someone else, somewhere else. So just taking some time out and thinking and looking at other opportunities and working with other people. But it, you know, it doesn't always have to be off farm. It could maybe be doing something, you know, starting up a new project at home. You've separated from the farm and you've started up a separate, you know, because we do need something to keep the old grey matter going as well, and to give us that spring and step. But everybody's different on that one, so I wouldn't like to prescribe how you do it. But I do think it is healthy to have outside interests if you can.
Thanks, Heather. I found paint by numbers is my de-stress on an evening. I love a bit of paint by numbers. I'll share with you all one day my cow painting if I paint our numbers. It looks like I'm an amazing painter, but I'm blatantly not. James, would you like to unmute yourself and bring your question in?
Yeah, no, well, firstly, I'd like to congratulate you, Kiri, on getting such a good speaker tonight. Heather really knows her stuff, is motivated about it. But Paul touched on a point, sadly, it's far too common here in Northern Ireland, where agriculture carries more suicides than any other industry. And some of the surveys that have been done that show that farmers were interviewed, 48% of them selected farm inspections as being the most stressful point in their year, more so than calving time, lambing time, weather, anything, all fell into small fry compared to farm inspection. And I spoke to, we have Northern Ireland Farm Quality Assured here in Northern Ireland, spoke to their liaison officer recently, and even he failed on 3 points on his test. I have been Farm Quality Assured for 25 years now. I've only had 1 inspection where I passed. So I think they need to look at the policy. Is it the scheme suitable for agriculture? Or is agriculture suitable in Northern Ireland for producing food, since we failed so much? Or should it be classed like your car MOT, where you pass but you have 3 minors that we need to review? Because a lot of us don't like failing. I think it's some sector where perhaps the likes of ABP and the processors, they liaise between the supermarkets and the farmers, and the supermarkets or the housewives that want these schemes. Perhaps they need to be steered in a direction where people aren't failing all the time. And Heather said herself, you need good people with good voices to bring change. And I feel she could be a person that can be employed in this sector to bring change, because she really believes in what she's doing.
James, thank you. And audits and inspections are always a daunting, nervous thing. And I was speaking to someone that was in catering, and she'd come into agriculture and industry, and she was amazed that in the hospitality and catering industry, you actually get organisations that come and help you prepare for an audit, that have everything ready for you. And I think that's a great opportunity in agriculture, that, you know, a company that could come in and do a pre-audit check for you to check that you're ready. You know, it's a bit like your driving test, isn't it? You don't just go and do a driving test, you have driving lessons, and then you get that pre-test run so that, you know, you kind of match fit, and we can all slip through hoops. I think also, you know, we do need these audits. We definitely need these audits, because unfortunately, you know, you farmers, I love you, but you're fecking frustrating. You know, there's always someone trying to cut a corner, do a deal, and think, oh, you know, it'll be fine. Actually, it won't. You know, so we've made this ourselves by being who we are. That's why we have to have these audits. And, you know, the likes of, you know, every supermarket retailer, you know, your different contracts, they are trying to have a unique selling factor to making themselves a little bit more unique. So, you know, and unfortunately, like I said earlier, I do know that some farms just don't meet the mark. And I know when I worked with First Milk, I used to have to follow up on the non-compliances, and it was really, really hard going into farms. And there were some that were terrible, absolutely terrible, and they were really you know, they were so backdated, and they were getting in a real muddle, because they were in denial of what needed to be done, and the progress and the change of standards, expectations. And it was a horrible position to be in, because I would only be, what, 25 then. I know it was a long time ago. And you know, to have to navigate and take that client through and actually close down their milk contract. So as you know, we do need these things, but is it sensible, and is it viable, and is it adding value, or is it just control and power? And I think as an industry, if we knew that it was all sensible, and that we knew that it was helping bring standards up, so that we never had a PETA or an animal rights on one of our farms saying, look at these calves, look at these pigs, look at this, whatever, you know. And yeah, so I think there's a bit of work to be done, but I think there's definitely sensitivity, and it's understanding the stress that is on people. But farming is a choice, and, you know, and unfortunately, some people are in denial that they do need to change. And it's I do feel for the auditors and inspectors as well. Having walked in a little bit of that foot in that shoe.
In 25 years, I've never failed an organic inspection. So there is a problem with this particular scheme. I think 80% of us after 25 years as farmers are still failing. It's not a very good advertisement for us.
No, so there's some work needs to be done. So that's engaging and speaking with them, isn't it?
Sam?
Yep, thanks very much, Kitty. Just to follow up on James there, 80% aren't failing. They might have a minor non-conformance. And I do agree with Heather. It's a very, very necessary thing to have for our livestock industry in Northern Ireland. But without quality assurance, we can sell nothing. Most of our meat goes to the British supermarkets, and they require that quality assurance. It's a thing that none of us really like doing, but you have to go with the program. But back to Heather, fantastic talk tonight, Heather. I have spent my life surrounding myself with good people, and I don't actually think anymore that you have to be big to be brilliant. I'm consolidating now, shall we say, and good people, good ideas, good talks. I was on a meeting last night, and I come off sort of, shocking, what am I even farming for? This is a really good group of people on this meeting here, and all the mentors anybody would need are on this call. So just thank you very much, and that's really all. I have no really questions for you, because hopefully I'm trying to do everything you said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Has anyone got any final questions for Heather? When I send the recording round, I will put Heather's details if anybody did want to contact Heather and discuss anything, without being obviously in a forum of other farmers. If that's okay, Heather, for me to share your details.
Yeah, I am coming over to Northern Ireland. This is me, I'm the old paper diary, in a very near future when I'm in Northern Ireland. I'm doing the AHDB in Limavady, the Monster Farm thing over there, and then we'll be over for a wee while as well, if that's something that anybody follows, the Monster Farms. But yeah, more than happy to share my details and everything. Katie, thank you. And thank you all very much for the questions and everything as well. It's been a delight to join you, and I wish you all the very, very best.
Thank you very much, Heather. And just a reminder, if anybody didn't think of your goals for both yourself, your work and your home life, do please, whether that's this evening or tomorrow, just try and take 5-10 minutes just to sit down and think about those goals, and write them down, because as Heather says, if you don't write them down, then they won't install in your mind to actually drive and try and achieve them. If they're not written down, you won't pick up the piece of paper in 6 months and think, I still need to look at this, or I still need to do a little bit more to achieve them. So please, I'm really glad that Heather's motivated you all this evening to think slightly differently, to think about change, and hopefully driving you all in the right direction. So thanks again, Heather, and hope you all have a nice rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Katie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.